with Puss in Boots out, I know that was tracking to do pretty decent numbers. You also had another movie that came out this week, and I Want to Dance with Somebody. I want to show it to you, but it won't let me. I Want to Dance with Somebody is the newest biopic about Whitney Houston that I know a lot of people were excited for. This is not working. I'm going to stick to IMDb. It's a great year for Letterboxd.
Getting off to a good start.
I was excited for it only because it's Whitney Houston, right? And I had seen the trailer come out of nowhere, and I'm like, yo, this is going to be something that could be a big Christmas movie. They were never going to budge their date. Then it turns out that it comes from the people of Bohemian Rhapsody, which got some people really excited, and then got some other people who felt, okay, this is going to be a standard by the numbers biopic. Look, easily put, it's a Whitney biopic, but it's not the Whitney biopic, you know? It's covering a lot of things that I don't think people even knew about Whitney early on. I guess her best friend had a 2019 book about their relationship. This movie's going at it completely as fact. That was something that took me for a loop. I just didn't know about that.
Interesting.
And then in building up, her career and how she comes from a troubled family, but still has this voice of a generation that she knew she could make something of herself. A majority of the movie isn't as creative as something like Bohemian Rhapsody was, where he's coming up with the music on the spot because he thinks of a cow or whatever. A majority of this movie is Stanley Tucci playing her music on cassettes and her going yay or nay. It's a whole episode of yay or nay for a majority of the stuff. She'll listen to a song on a Walkman and be like, yeah, this is the one that I want. And then that's what becomes the creative process of it. It is cool to see a lot of the sequences where she's reenacting the music videos, where she's reenacting performances. But when it's someone as big as Whitney Houston, you get almost like the Elvis debacle where it's like there are certain points where you just got to cut to the original voice. Even with Rami, he didn't even bother doing the voice.
Right.
And I'm led to believe that she did do some of it or as much as she could for it. And
it's a tall
I think
task.
Her performance is... It's a tall task, but I think her performance in this is good. It's just the writing doesn't help her. She is a person where you cannot highlight the brightest moments of her career if you're too afraid to get to the dark moments. And that's not on Naomi's fault. I think she does a really good job as one of her biggest, probably early roles that she's had. But that script's not going to do it. You cannot highlight the brightest moments. You can't go... You can't highlight the highs if you don't have the strength to go for the lows.
Yeah.
There are several moments where she is being told what she's facing. You don't see it. So she's at a radio station where the guy tells her, you've got all this baggage on you and nobody likes you from this community. And she's like, yeah, well, I just got to deal with it. But you never really see it. There's obviously they get into her whole relationship with Bobby. And the way that they try to they begin the relationship by her kind of manhandling him. That's an interesting way to begin that, considering what the relationship would end up being. There was another moment here where obviously we know what ends up happening with Whitney. But the way that they try to cover this, Zach, and this is slightly a spoiler if you want to see it, but the way that they cover her substance abuse is by her meeting up with fans who want an autograph to hide it. But then the fan who gets the autograph after slipping whatever needs to be slipped and he's got his money throws away the booklet still in the hotel lobby. Thus, what was the whole point of the facade of faking it that you were doing in exchange? It's high school level drama in terms of how they try to deal with the abuse and that. And obviously it's to keep it at the PG-13 rating. It's to keep it in the most mainstream possible way. I don't know if people are looking for the roughest Whitney Houston biopic, but if you're in there for the music, all of it is really performances. And you can argue that it's better to just watch the originals back home, but I think that Naomi does a decent job for it. So for me, it's a decent rent it. If you're a big Whitney fan and you want to see this in like a Dolby screen, I don't even think it's being played in Dolby, but hopefully you got a nice theater and maybe it's a junior price. But for me, I'd say wait until you're at home because it's 2 hours and something and change. You're not really in there for the story of Whitney. You're in there kind of for the highlights. It's a nice Wikipedia film of her career. So I want to dance with somebody in theaters now.
Yeah, maybe the purpose of some of these less than great biopics is just kind of a gateway to people who maybe are less familiar to get into a Whitney Houston or a Freddie Mercury or Elton John or who have you. It is always the thing that we default to when a new music biopic comes out. Does this fall victim to the Walk Hard Dewey Cox story comparison? Yes. Does it just hit way too many of those way too familiar beats?
Man, when I tell you she hears, and I like it. It's like, come on now. You know, it's aware of what she is going to become and confuses that with, no, we're writing a character who's confident. No, you're writing a character from the perspective of all of us knowing she's going to be an icon, not someone who knew she was going to be an icon. So, yeah,
Exactly.
it's beat by beat. But again,
it's a shame.
It's Whitney, dude. Whitney, I think, is going to get way more documentaries, biopics, miniseries. It's not one of those where you're going to be like, oh, no, they ruined it. There's many more to come. But this was the one that got the estate. So hopefully in the future, they do allow the estate to be able to give the rights to this music, because it's kind of difficult to make an artist's biopic without the music. But this is out in theaters. If you're curious, feel free to check it or wait at home once it comes out on VOD, which shouldn't be too long from now.